Just when you thought that the Seahawks were going to start slowing down, that the news was not going to continue to flow out as fast as possible, the Seahawks just opened the floodgates. There is so much news going around. The Seahawks, they're signing players to futures contracts. Coaches are going and doing interviews for different coordinator positions. And, of course, the Seahawks, they're starting to do their offensive coordinator interviews as well. We're going to get into all the latest news on today's show. But before we do any of that, make sure that you hit that sub button. We have you covered for everything going on with the Seattle Seahawks in the 2026 NFL offseason. And we're trying to become the 11th biggest channel here at Chat Sports. Right now, we're the 12th, which is fitting. But our Knicks Now channel, they are ahead of us. We're better than basketball. Football's better than basketball. Come on in, hit that sub button, help us go catch Knicks Now. Thank you guys so much for viewing today's video, and we're going to get into it right now. This is Seahawks Today. I am your host, Will Ortner, and we're going to start the show by talking about what's going on with the OC interviews. Obviously, we know that the Seahawks were going to have to replace Klint Kubiak once he left to go be the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. Interviews are already starting today, so we'll dive into some of those. Then we're going to have to talk about some of the different teams that are interviewing Seahawks coaches to be their offensive and defensive coordinators. A couple of Seahawks position coaches did get some nods there, which good for them. And then, of course, we got to talk about all of the signings that the Seattle Seahawks made because, well, there were a lot of futures contracts that got done today. Starting with the OC interviews, this came to us from Jeremy Fowler. He said the Seahawks are interviewing 4 in-house candidates: Andrew Janocko, Jake Peetz, Justin Otten, and Mac Brown. They're going to be starting that today, Thursday, and of course, they'll be doing some on Friday as well. Obviously, head coach Mike McDonald is looking internally to see who the next candidate will be, with which I have been very forthcoming in saying that I am very pro this. Now, the internal candidates that I thought they would have interviewed were all the same except for one. I did have O-line coach John Benton on that list. Now, it is interesting that he is not on the list that Fowler has released of being interviewed. There obviously is still time for him to be interviewed later on, but it does make me wonder, will he end up staying in Seattle, where he did a fantastic job this season, or will he go to Las Vegas with Kubiak? That does seem to be one of the two destinations that Benton could possibly be. When you ask me who I think will be the offensive coordinator next year, I do think it's going to be Jake Peetz. He did a fantastic job with the passing game this season, and you really saw Sam Darnold and Jackson Smith-Njigba really explode into their new roles and become household names. JSN winning the Offensive Player of the Year, and then Sam Darnold doing what Sam Darnold really does and making sure that the Seahawks go out on top as Super Bowl champions. Who do you think will be the next offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks? Let me know down below in the comment section. It could be one of the guys that we have listed. It could be an external candidate. You just let me know who you think it will be down below. When we look at the next transition here, we're going to talk about the coaches that are on the Seahawks staff as position coaches that are interviewing for different roles with other teams. So Karl Scott is a defensive back coach as well as the passing game coordinator for the defense for the Seattle Seahawks. He has been a big name to watch in the National Football League for quite some time, and he's finally getting his due, being able to go and interview with the Arizona Cardinals for their potential defensive coordinator job. This, of course, coming to us from CBS Sports' Matt Zenitz. Scott has been of interest in multiple DC jobs, and honestly, he is an up-and-comer. Mina Kimes tweeted out that this was expected and that this is going to come more and more often for Scott if he doesn't end up getting this job in Arizona. When you look at the other guy who's getting an offensive coordinator interview, this kind of came a little bit out of left field, but I still think it's a fascinating interview to say the least, and that's wide receiver coach Frisman Jackson for the Seattle Seahawks. He is going to do an interview with the Raiders for their OC position. This, of course, coming to us from Tom Pelissero. Now, what I do find interesting here with Jackson is while he wasn't on the list of guys who was an internal candidate for the Seattle Seahawks, he's worked a lot with Kubiak. Actually, he was held over from the Ryan Grubb staff by Kubiak and McDonald as well. So this is a guy who has worked around for multiple different stops. He's a very good coach, and it's clear that he's starting to get interviewed for positions that he's really earned. In my personal opinion, when I look at this, this is a good thing. I don't know if either one of those coaches gets that coordinator position that they are so desperately after this time around, but there's a reason why the Seahawks have been very good. You have good coaches. You have good players. When you have good coaches and you have good players, they're going to be offered better spots, or in the position of players, they're going to be offered more money. And sometimes you can't always keep up with the Joneses in those situations. So to me, it's a good sign for the Seahawks that their coaches are getting other interviews. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that they do stay in Seattle, but I'm not going to begrudge any of those guys if they leave for greener pastures somewhere else. We're going to dive into the latest signings that the Seahawks made because, well, they made 15 of them things. But first, we're going to talk about the best merch in the game, in my personal opinion, and that's the Champs gear that we have over at chatsports.com right now. But chatsports.com/Seahawks60. We have the champions in the black and the navy t-shirt. Super sweet, super good looking, super comfortable t-shirt, by the way. I've got the mob mentality on right now. I feel great wearing it. If you're saying, Will, it's a little bit cold outside, well, guess what? You can go put on a hoodie because we have one of those for you as well. Again, in the black and in the navy. If you're a little bit more whimsical and you say, Will, I want something that's a little bit more my style, you can go grab this mascot mob t-shirt that we have here. Again, we have it in the black and we have it in the navy. The thing is freaking funny, and it is so stinking cool. If you're saying, Will, hey, I'm whimsical, but I also get cold, I understand that those things happen. You can grab yourself a hoodie as well. We got the black and the navy. It is my favorite gear that we have going out right now. If you want to know where to get that gear, we're going to have the link in the comment section and description of today's video. All you got to do, click that link. It'll take you right where you need to be, and you can take care of all the stuff that you want to take care of. Scott H., shout out to you. You have the mob mentality. Scott H. came in. He grabbed some mob gear. Want to make sure that I give a special shout out to him. If you want to be shouted out in a future video, all you got to do, go grab some mob gear for yourself, and we make sure that we get you that shout out on the show. I always get alerted when stuff gets bought. I'll make sure that you get your shout out. So I've been alluding to this for quite some time. The Seattle Seahawks went out and signed some futures contracts today. This is going to keep these 15 players with the Seattle Seahawks through this offseason. They are already signing that they will be a part of the squad here. The first futures contract that we want to talk about on today's show is, of course, Cam Akers. Running back came over with the Seahawks midway through the year, did a very good job, and in fact, I was very impressed with everything that he has done with this Seahawks team and with this Seahawks squad. Next, we have Velus Jones Jr., another guy who came in midway through the year with the Seattle Seahawks, did a great job in that running back position, especially filling in when Zach Charbonnet obviously had his injury in the postseason. Now, I think it's smart by the Seahawks to make sure that they hold on to both of these running backs because, one, well, they are both veterans and they are experienced, and they're experienced with this team. But it's also important to note that with both of these guys, they can play a multitude of different styles of RB, and Seattle may need them depending on everything that goes on with Kenneth Walker. Next guy that we got to talk about, last running back, is Jacardia Wright. Guy was fantastic in the preseason with the Seahawks. Could be the type of player that really grows into his role. George Halani went through this a little bit with the Seahawks. Could be a guy that as more and more opportunities come his way, he continues to take advantage of them and ends up being a big-time player. Next, we've got Tyrone Broden, a fantastic wide receiver, a guy who, again, needs a little bit more time to develop, needs a little bit more time in the system, but another guy that I do think could end up being a big-time player. The Seahawks were very lucky this year. They were able to stay relatively healthy, and because of them staying healthy, Broden was never called upon, but he's definitely the type of player that could potentially be called upon if there was a bunch of injuries in a future season, especially if he continues to grow. Montorie Foster Jr., very excited to see him in Seattle. Another player that has more time and can continue to grow into being a big-time star. I said this earlier. I do believe that it is smart to keep Cam Akers and Velus Jones Jr. on your team because we know that the Seahawks have had injuries at that running back position. And in fact, this year they were actually fairly healthy at running back for a NFL team. So keep two veterans, two guys that they're going to come in, they're going to battle it out through OTAs, minicamp, training camp, and they're going to help push the Seahawks team to the future and can help push the Seahawks team to being a team that has an opportunity to repeat again. So I think that these are great signings and a great job there. When we look at the next five, we've got wide receiver Ricky White, the third. The guy is an absolute speedster. Another young player, another guy that the more that he develops, hey, who knows, potentially could end up being a big-time impact, not just on special teams, but actually being an impact with that wide receiver unit. Logan Brown is next, another offensive lineman. Good to keep him around. He's a young guy, very smart there. Federico Moranges is our next offensive lineman, a younger guy, a guy that is still developing. And again, O-linemen, they age like fine wine. It takes time. So bring them in, keep them around. Plus, they're going to continue to really progress through what this offensive line has been, and they've been absolutely fantastic this year. J.R. Singleton coming in on the defensive side as we're starting to move over to more defensive players, as well as Bubba Thomas. When I look at both of these guys, they are young. They are in a position that is very deep right now when you're talking about the interior of the Seahawks defensive line. It's also important to note that it is one of the older crews on the Seahawks team. The Seahawks are very young, but when it comes to the interior of that D-line, Leonard Williams is on the wrong side of 30, and Jaron Reed is on the wrong side of 30. These are older guys. So there is a potential that if they get nicked up, scraped up, that these younger guys could come in, fill that role, or really push them during the preseason. Now, no one's more excited than myself that Leonard Williams has already said, hey, I'm coming back and I'm going to play a lot. I believe that Jaron Reed will come back and he will continue to play a lot as well. Very excited to see what that interior defensive line does, but it is smart to get some younger guys in there to learn from them as well. Make sure that you turn on your notifications because the minute that the Seahawks make any sort of moves, like they did today, we're going to make sure that we get a video out to you. You click that noti bell and you set it to all. You're going to be alerted the minute that we have a video drop, and you will never miss another Seahawks video. Last 5 guys that we have to go through on today's show. We're going to start off with Chris Paul Jr., linebacker for the Seahawks squad, a guy who is young, a guy who is still trying to grow into his role. Very excited to see what he could potentially do in Seattle. Jamie Sheriff is next, a guy who's seen some time in Seattle. Be interested to see if he's able to push through and earn himself more and more run. Seahawks were very healthy this year at that outside linebacker edge rusher position. Definitely would have thought that we would have seen Jamie Sheriff a little bit this year. So the fact that they stayed unusually healthy could be a reason why the Seahawks bring him back, just in case they need to call on him again. Jamarcus Weston is next. Easy for me to say. Very excited to see what he could do. Again, another younger player. Tyler Hall coming in at that cornerback spot. A guy that can help push the rest of that crew. And I think you do and are going to see the Seahawks potentially lose some defensive backs this year. So it would make sense for them to hold on to him and Maxon Hook, a guy that they brought in this year. 2 guys that I do think could help push in that DB room. We've seen that McDonald has had a lot of success grabbing guys later in the draft, or guys who are undrafted free agents, guys who have been tossed away by other teams and by other squads, and that he can bring in and really get the maximum amount of their talent. Did anyone think that Ty Okada was going to turn into being a impactful player and a real star might be too much, but a real important player for the Seahawks team? No, you guys probably didn't. I certainly didn't. And then he turned into be one of the best pieces that the Seahawks had all year because he filled in at that safety spot when guys were hurt and he made big plays. So who knows? One of these guys could potentially be one of those crews. Smart to keep this crew together. Smart to keep guys in the building that already know what you want to do. I want to know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Who is your favorite new Seahawks signing? Let me know of the 15 who you look at and you say, hey, man, that guy's going to make a very big impact on the Seahawks squad next year. I'm always checking the comments, so make sure you leave them down below. Make sure you help us catch Knicks now. We are within, let's do quick math, 600 there? Within 600, producer Searle gives me a nod on the side. He's holding up his fingers, and I can't count past 10. So make sure that you come in, hit that sub button, help us catch Knicks now. We're closing in rapidly on them. Thank you guys so much for viewing today's video. I can't wait to see you next time.